Today's video is how I protect my real estate assets or my rental properties. Do I have LLCs or no LLCs? I am Tiffany Thomas, your wealth mentor. I achieved financial freedom in my 30s and became a millionaire at 40. I'm here to help you do that even earlier and easier and without bias. All right, this was actually a requested video because one of my followers is interested in investing in real estate, so I wanted to break down the reasons why someone may want to set up an LLC for their rental properties or the reasons why they may not, and what I have actually chosen to do. So the first thing that I want to say is that I've chosen not to have my properties in an LLC or even individual LLCs. So they are currently in my name, and now I want to cover the reasons why I've chosen to do this and why some people may choose otherwise. The first reason a lot of people choose to set up an LLC is because of the liability and the coverage that they're going to get. But here's the thing with setting up an LLC, it is not ironclad. There are still ways to get into your personal assets and not just have access to the LLC. For example, if someone falls on your property and they decide to sue you, especially when you have a single member LLC set up. And this is usually what's done for real estate properties. And there's just no guarantee that it's going to fully protect you to have your rental property under an LLC. So I just have chosen not to go that option, and I want to cover the other reasons why. So I have insurance on my properties, and then there's also what's called an umbrella policy. You can get $1 million umbrella policy, and this covers you even further up to that $1 million. So I feel like this is a really nice way to have that extra protection with your properties without setting up an LLC. And for most people, unless you are building a complete empire of properties, I feel like this is going to work. And by the way, I'm not a tax accountant, I'm not a lawyer. This is just me doing my own research and what I've chosen to do. So I'm just sharing my own opinions and my own thoughts. So by having the umbrella policy, you have that extra coverage there. When someone tries to sue just a regular, girl that owns a few properties or a guy that owns a few properties, usually it's not going to be for $500 million or something like that. The amount is small, and I feel like this is good enough coverage for me. And also, it's not super expensive to add an umbrella policy. I could run the numbers, and maybe if I don't launch this video yet, I'll have a little add-on of this and I can tell you what the numbers are. But a few $100 extra a year, something like that. So it gives you that coverage, and you're covered up to that $1 million. And then also an actual risk of a really large judgment is very low. From what I have seen, the research I have done, that is very, very low. So I'm not really worried about that. And then the second item someone might set up an LLC for their rental properties is because of the tax benefits. And honestly, the tax benefits come from you just buying the property, and it doesn't need to be set up under an LLC to have these tax benefits. You're going to owe the same taxes either way. But one thing is, if it is under a separate LLC, then you're going to pay extra for your accountant to do the taxes for that LLC, or you'll spend the extra time to do the taxes for that. So I've combined just my personal taxes with my rental properties, and I'm not paying an extra fee to have that separation, that separate LLC. The third item someone might have an LLC for their rental property is because they want to keep their rental property separate from their personal finances. And they may want to set up a separate checking account, savings account, a separate credit card. But honestly, all I do is have a Google Sheet for each of my properties. And once I spend money for, I don't know, replacing an AC unit or a water heater, then all I do is open up my Google Sheet and I input the place where I bought that item and then the amount, what it was for, and then it's taken care of. So I don't have to have one credit card for this property, one credit card for this one, checking for this one, checking for that one. I don't want to carry that many different credit cards. It's just easier for me when I stop at Home Depot and I buy something for one property. I open the app on my phone, the Google Sheet app on my phone, and input the amount that I spent for that property, and I call it good. And then I give those Google Sheets to my accountant, and my accountant is able to do my taxes. So I feel like that makes it pretty easy for me. I don't want all of these different accounts because I don't really find that necessary. Number 4 is, and this one actually was a concern for me, people want to remain anonymous because we can look up who owns which property. And honestly, I've done my homework on this, and people can still figure out who owns what property, even if you have your LLC listed as the owner, especially with real estate agents or just agents that want to buy your home. They're going to find your contact information one way or another. There are ways to do this. So you're going to get contacted, just realize that, whether or not you have an LLC. So I'm not living some double life, and I don't need to keep everything super private. And even if I try to do that, it doesn't really work. So I'm just not going to worry about that. And then the 5th item is that if you have a partner that you're purchasing the property with, a business partner, then I would say to set up an LLC so that you can keep things really organized and clear on who is taking care of what, and you have that business partnership. So in that sense, it makes sense to set up an LLC. Going back to the costs of setting up an LLC, there's extra costs, right? You have to register that LLC, and there's a fee for that, and you have to pay that fee every single year to continue to use the LLC, to have the LLC. So I don't really want to be paying an extra cost in order to do that. Oh, also, if you were to use a property manager, then they would have to set up separate accounts for each of your LLCs. I personally manage my own properties, so I'm not doing that, but that is an extra item to consider if you are interested in having a property manager. And then the 7th item that I want to address is people think that it's a great idea to set up their LLC, but they don't realize when they are trying to get a mortgage that a lot of lenders don't actually lend. They don't do a conventional loan to a business. So you would have to set up a commercial loan, which is a whole nother process. I personally prefer using the conventional loans for my mortgages and not doing a commercial loan. And then also some people think, well, I could get the mortgage in my name and then switch it over to an LLC later on. And that could be an option depending on your lender. Some lenders may require you to pay back that full amount and then set up a new loan under the LLC. And some of them don't even do commercial loans. So it just makes it more complicated when you are trying to get your mortgage through an LLC. And also, a lot of times banks won't even lend to newly formed LLCs. So if you are thinking of buying a property, you set up a brand new LLC, try to get a mortgage right after, that may not work for you because of the lender. So for me personally, I found it to just work better not putting my properties in LLCs. And of course, there are different ways to do this. If you really feel like you need an LLC, you can have a main LLC, a parent LLC, and then have LLCs underneath that. or you could have a separate LLC for each property. It depends on your circumstances, but for me, and I also know of other real estate investors that do not set up LLCs for their properties. And there is one that I know, I think he has 10 properties and they are all in his own name. But nonetheless, just having a couple properties, a few properties, for me, I don't feel like an LLC is really worth it. So I've chosen not to do that, but I still feel protected because of the reasons that I have talked about. All right, comment below and let me know if you're going to set up an LLC for your real estate properties or not. And if you want help investing in the stock market or in real estate, I have a link I will leave below in the description. You can click on that link and get the details on how you can work with me. And if you want more information like this, then hit that subscribe button.